Hey Aquarius, so I've decided to start doing zodiac reads for my collective, and this is the reading for Aquarius for the month of March. And so we're going to start with just like what's the overall, like what's the overreaching theme of the month of March for you? Like what do we have as the overall? Oh, Dream Sanctuary. Oh, this is great. So let's take a look at this. What a beautiful card. This is what I'm really seeing is like last month for Aquarius was really like dense and intense, and for a lot of Aquarius it was just like a reckoning. It was so much growth that there were a lot of growing pains and a lot of like tower kind of shakeups. So as March is coming in, this is all about attending to those small things and kind of letting yourself dream up that new future. Daydreams and manifestation, I mean, these things go hand in hand, like allowing yourself to sort of just like sit around and visualize and dream the person that you want to become, because a lot was shed. I mean, there's been a lot, especially last month, there was a lot that was shed. And so the way that I do spreads is I do kind of just like a question and answer. And so it's not really a spread. I just sort of, you'll see, it's an intuitive kind of way of doing spreads. But the overall theme is to take it kind of easy and to attend to the small things. This isn't really like, March is not feeling like this big idea month so much as it's a month of paying attention and to the stuff that like didn't happen because of a lot of chaos, and also visualizing and dreaming up like that new way of being in the world and the stuff that you want to avoid. All right, so I'll put the cards up as I'm. So what I'm seeing here, these all came out upside down, and I'm just going to hold them up real quick so that you have a sense. You can like pause and take a look. So the thing that you're going to want, something to avoid in March, is, let me just feel into this for a second. There's been a lot of hurt. I'm getting the sense that there has been a lot of hurt, and like there's been almost like you've had to heal, and there's been like this, you know, this like Four of Swords, like healing space that you've been in, and it's related to an injustice that you suffered, and it sort of has you, it has the heart chakra kind of closed, and it's like, you know, you're so magnificent, you've got so much power, and there's so much about you that it like is wealth. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about you know, different, like the wealth, like wealth of intelligence, wealth of beauty. And by the way, as we're entering the age of Aquarius, like you are the beauty standard. And so there's so much about you that is just like so incredible, but there's like a holding tight, there's a clamping down, there's a withholding. This is a withholding. So what Spirit wants you to avoid is allowing this injustice to put you in a position socially where it's not just, you know, attending to simple things and visualizing and dreaming. It's kind of just like closing in on yourself, not standing in that place of strength, but really standing in that place of knowing your worth, but withholding, right? And so the thing to avoid this March is, you know, having that injustice that has affected you for a really long time. You want to step out of it's been enough of an injustice that you've just been healing for like a little bit too long. Like there's no such thing as healing for a little bit too long, but there is a sense in which healing spaces can become comfort zones, and injustices can affect us in a way that, and again, I keep on seeing the heart chakra closed. And so Spirit would have you avoid, like, I'm hearing like, when you have an uncomfortable emotion related to this injustice, just having a moment of like accepting that emotion and letting it move through you so that you're not having like these negative energies trapped in your system, and keeping that heart chakra open. Yeah, so keeping that heart chakra open. So definitely like avoid being too withdrawn, too protective of yourself, and too much in the comfort zone, and allowing that injustice to sort of dictate how you are throughout the month and like how you're affected. What Spirit would have you embrace, though, on the other hand, is kind of changing. You know, there's a sense in which like this, yeah, the death card at the bottom of the deck. There's a need for change. There is definitely, in the month of March, as you dream up this new way of being in the world and sort of attend to the simple things, you know, what Spirit really wants you to avoid is being stuck in this place of the world is unjust. I like don't need to engage with it at all. I don't want to. It's just a terrible idea, and I'm going to stay in my comfort zone as long as is humanly possible. That's to avoid, you know, and change, and that's a stuck energy that Spirit wants to move you out of. But what Spirit wants you to embrace like a completely new way of being in the world. So you've got like the Seven of Wands here, and you've got it in the reverse, and so there's a like overly defensive, an overly sharp tongue, you know, and like a level of manipulation. And so I'm not, you know, that like this isn't like calling you out, but you have been hurt. I can see that and I can feel that. And I know that last month was like such a reckoning in so many ways. And again, Spirit wants you to like avoid like a calcification around that injustice that you suffered. And furthermore, like wants you to embrace putting down defenses, embrace, again, opening that heart chakra and keeping that heart chakra soft, and embrace being in that heart space and not just stuck in the head. And as you do that, you know, like there's a sense in which like any manipulation, and manipulation is such a terrible word, but there's constant manipulation. You know, manipulation can be just wanting someone to see you in a certain way. So Spirit is wanting you to embrace a kind of a new way of being in the world that like is letting down those defenses, opening that heart space and operating more from the heart than the head. And like to the extent like that you want to have people see you a certain way and that you would like them to see you a certain way, sort of letting go of the control there. And like really, you know, this is a kind of March is a kind of, yes, it's a dreaming yourself into being in the world in a new way. But it means like letting go of some of the protective habits of the past that are no longer serving you. And so March is going to be letting some of that stuff go. Yeah. You know, like there was a sense in which you built a lot and it didn't add up in the way that you wanted it to. So what Spirit would have you evaluate, again, we're talking about emotional intelligence, and you know, with the King of this, you got the King of Cups with the King of Cups in reverse. Not needing to, I'm hearing, Spirit's trying to come. I'm hearing other people's opinions of you. Like, don't let them feel life-threatening. Spirit has a beautiful, passionate, like Spirit's in the month of March. Spirit is really giving you something to be passionate about, something to work towards, something that's going to pay off, something related to your talent and your beauty and your effervescence. And that, you know, that's going to require a level of balance. So Spirit wants you to sort of like look at your emotional intelligence and ask yourself if you're being too closed off. Like, ask yourself if you're sort of sitting in the corner of the room, understanding where everybody else is emotionally and observing, but not participating. So to the extent that there is just like this beautiful, incredible, like bright, passionate energy, idea, like opportunity coming into your life, Spirit wants you to take the time in March to, evaluate like feeling about like whether or not you're feeling balanced, and look at how your emotional intelligence is either serving you or sort of like keeping you at a distance from others. Because I get the sense that this is working in a public way. Yeah, that's feeling like that. And so again, there's a call to open up this March, and let go of too much protection, just like a touch too much protection. And so let's see, on that note, like let's ask Spirit like what you should be letting go. In addition, just there's a lot, to think about and to consider and to dream up, but what would Spirit have you let go? Okay. Spirit wants you to let go of always needing perfect clarity. You want clarity, you want information, you want to know what's going on, but having to know all of the information about absolutely everything in order to proceed in a project or a relationship. There's something to be said for like developing a relationship with uncertainty. So Spirit would have you in the month of March, like let go of the addiction to certainty a little bit, let go of, again, being in a position of, well, this emperor energy, right? So Spirit would have you sort of step back from, you are always the winner, Aquarius. You are always, you're always able to assess a room, and you're always able to have that like perfect amount of attachment and detachment, and your aesthetics are so good that it's like it's very easy to be in a place of superiority. There's just no two ways about it. And I'm not saying that you're like a snob or you think you're better than anybody else, but it is very easy when you're able to assess a room and have such a like aesthetic, emotional, and an intellectual like understanding of what's going on. It's very easy to sort of like hold yourself in a position where you're self-appointed, and like Aquarius doesn't do this in a very public, open way, but like having to maintain control over a household, to maintain control over a workspace, having to maintain control. You may be the one that knows the best way to do it, but Spirit is saying like knowing the best way to do it and always being like in that position. This month, let's let that go. Letting go judging things. Because I think what Spirit wants in terms of like putting down being always right, like putting down like always being kind of like the celebrated, like there's a sense in which like don't judge, let go of the addiction to certainty, because Spirit wants to bring in some new stuff, and that means the old stuff needs you need to take a vacation from being involved in every aspect of, and not like in your face involved. I'm not talking about like Leo energy. I'm just saying like let everything go. Let everything be kind of a mess. Let everything just be a little bit woolly and wild and out of control, because Spirit wants to show you something through that. And so like letting go of the need to be in control, because there's so much that you understand. Letting go of the need to have judgments, just step back from sort of judging your environment, because there's something hidden that Spirit wants to show you. And in terms of like what's a growth opportunity, your growth opportunity here, and let me just take a look, because I think that there's another card. Your growth opportunity is starting over and starting out new, planting a new seed, a new direction. And I think that this is why Spirit is asking you to let go of the reins of what was your life, because the way to grow in March is to really start, again, being in that dream sanctuary. That is the theme of the month. Being in that dream sanctuary and starting to dream up this new life. Because Spirit's really saying, like, March is a pivot point for you. You may have been very settled in either a family or a work environment that you started to grow out of, that like a year ago, you were completely, like a year ago, most of us were a completely different person. But the life the life that was structured around you, it's feeling like you've had so much metamorphosis that to grow, you're kind of growing out of that space a little bit. And all of the time that you've spent in introspection, all of the time that you have spent reevaluating and like just feeling where things are off, like your intuition is so good. But growing right now in the month of March, means allowing yourself to dream about what a starting over, starting new might look like, and understanding that your growth, the growth that you've already had, may have you feeling like you're wearing a shoe that is just way too small. And so while this may have been the perfect shoe stability in the past, it's like your foot has grown and it's just too small and it's pinching the toes. And so the growth of March is understanding that, you've grown and moving out of a place of being always on the inside, being self-protective, kind of knowing what's going on all the time. It's not like any of these things are bad qualities. It's not bad to have incredible intuition and to have an incredible emotional intelligence. What Spirit's bringing to my attention this March that is a great growth opportunity is Spirit saying you can have all of those things, but also have intimacy. And not have a gulf of separation is what I'm seeing. And so what's the growth opportunity here? Start dreaming about what a new beginning would look like and thinking about whether or not the life that you're currently in, the structures that were stable for you before, if they still fit. And Spirit wants you to move out of that space of in control, understanding it all, but from a withholding spot. And that's kind of a very Aquarius thing, but not really. It's something that people say about Aquarius, but Aquarius is one of the most intensely loving signs in the zodiac. And because of that, and they're so sensitive, in so many different ways. There's so many good qualities that they do tend to sort of create what I'm seeing a moat, create a kind of moat between themselves and the essence, and that soft place, and how they perceive the world and how they interact in the world. And Spirit is I want to build a bridge, and I want you to feel close, and feel that safety, security, and closeness, so that you can have all of these beautiful qualities, in addition to having intimacy. And so what Spirit really wants you to let go of, there were a lot of illusions that got smashed in the last couple of months, and the last month in particular. There were a lot of illusions that you had about, it could be about a relationship, it could be about life writ large, it could be about what you thought you wanted and it turned out you didn't. What Spirit wants you to let go of is, anything that you now look at and it's a pattern of thinking or a way of thinking in the world that no longer fits, and that you're identifying as not feeling like your truth anymore, not aligning with your highest truth. Letting go of just stuff that doesn't make sense, stuff that's not working, confusing, hard to grasp, stuff that just doesn't feel right. Spirit says just let it go. Don't ruminate on it. Don't let it make you stuck in a spot where this whole month of March for you, honestly, is an unstuck kind of thing. Getting unstuck from negative behavior patterns, negative thought patterns, anything that you're chained to. You know, the devil card is in my, like, I always look at the devil card and I always think it's anything that you feel chained to that is like siphoning the life out of you. And so, you know, in terms of letting go, like Spirit is like, you know, if something turned out to not be true, like don't try to make it true. Don't try to like rejigger it and make it like fit in a whole different way. If you found out something wasn't true and wasn't in alignment with truth, don't get stuck without any movement and without like planting like again, you're moving into a new, dreaming up a new future. So don't get stuck like one step before that, because you are letting go. And there is, I'm seeing chains cut. And so this is actually really beautiful, because you're letting go of illusions, you're letting go of all this negative, like, you know, what you're chained to. And Spirit says, just don't get stuck in trying to fit things back the way they, you know, it's not like you wanted these things, like this wasn't working, right? This wasn't working in the first place. Like it was an untrue, unfunctioning sort of an energy in your life. But there was also an attachment to it, and Spirit's drawing me attention to like inner child stuff. And there's a sense in which your inner child like still holds an attachment to, you know, some of these things that you thought that were true that didn't turn out to be true. And this inner child also has some attachments, so like negative ways of being in the world, and, you know, being you know, tethered to certain things that just aren't right. And so Spirit really wants you to like, you know, work with the inner child and just allow yourself to let go of that which has got you chained, and let go of that which is just not in accordance with your highest truth, and really work on the inner child in getting unstuck. And that is dreaming. I mean, that really is again, back to that theme of the month, like dreaming your new life, attending to the stuff that didn't get done because of distractions and just the energy of the last couple of months and last month in general, and dreaming up a new way of being in the world, and dreaming up a new start. Because how Spirit wants you to grow in the month of March, there's a lot of change this month, but you know, it's not like the most uncomfortable change. Like I'm not seeing like ripping you out of something that you love or disappointment. I'm not seeing any of that. I'm seeing a lot of areas in your life where in March, Spirit's like, let's do a redo, and let's not be afraid to do a redo, and let's actually like hands off a little bit so that we can see what's available, what's really there. And that's a lot of what Spirit is doing with you in the month of March. It's not feeling that like, I'm not feeling an overwhelming like difficult, but I am feeling like you're like, it's a pivot point in your life, that this March is really a pivot point in your life. And so like the action that Spirit wants you to take is releasing there's inner conflict. There is, abandonment issues. And there is like a burden, holding too much of a burden, being weighed down by burden. Spirit wants you to take action, and just, these are the things that you don't want to bring into your new life. Let me look at this for a second, because, at the bottom of the deck under this pull, you've got Seven of Swords. So there's some sneakiness. There was some dishonesty and sneakiness, and that's come to a head. So, this is inner conflict, and it's inner conflict to the tune of not wanting to deal with it, and then it manifests as like paranoid anxiety. And this is, being left out in the cold, and, and when I see this upside down, the feeling I'm getting is like an abandonment issue that runs so deep that it becomes like a stern belief about what happens, and holding this burden. I'm seeing someone trying to, again, Spirit's like, put it all down, put it all down, trying to like control all the aspects. Like I'm seeing like a boat that is sinking and somebody with a bucket trying to bail out that boat to keep it floating. And Spirit is saying, like, that's a tremendous burden and a lot of work. And it's rooted in this belief of, you know, trying to avoid like what is a deep, like, inner child abandonment issue, and really repressing all of this conflict, because there's a lot of conflict. You don't like this boat. You grew out of that boat. But, you know, when you repress that, it comes out in like just paranoid anxiety. So like action to take is to sort of become aware of some of this stuff and like, you know, be honest with yourself about the fact that like you've got a new beginning coming, and the new beginning coming is going to require, you're getting a growth spurt that is going to really serve you well. But there's a lot of old ways of being. There's a lot of stuff that like a lot of ways in which your personality formed around things that were like difficult, like all that negative stuff. Spirit's bringing a whole new, like, again, you've worked through it, and you're in a phase in March where Spirit wants you to begin to dream about the life that you want to have, and dream, like visualize and manifest this new life. But that means taking your eyes off and your focus off trying to bail out a boat that's sinking. And that seems like a little bit harsh, but you know, that's really what's coming through. So asking Spirit about, let's get some advice on that, because that seems like pretty harsh. Let's see what we got here. Not harsh, you know, it makes sense. Like, you know, to start over and to be able to see the landscape clearly, you kind of have to take, you have to like, I'm seeing someone like with one of those like monocle, like, you know, when you go on vacation and you put your eyes through the thing to see really far away. I don't know why the word is escaping me when I'm channeling. It's also weird. But, you know, Spirit's showing me someone who's looking through, a magnifying glass, and like, but like one of those, like, what Spirit is that word? Telescope, sorry. So I'm seeing someone like looking through a telescope, and Spirit saying like, I want to give you so much more, and I need you first to take your eye off of the telescope and what you're looking at, that you think that you're looking at the whole of your world. But Spirit wants to move your eye off that telescope so that you can see like the true landscape. And you just have to be willing to like pick your head up, because Spirit would want you to know that, like, you know, in order for you to find this like home that feels good, where intimacy is safe, where not only do you like understand and appreciate things, but like you're also like you're able to really receive and feel the warmth and the comfort and the security of that love. And this means that there's a lot of old stuff that's not going to fit that new life, that just has to be burnt away, and that has to be allowed to be burnt away. And so that's sort of like, you know, that's the action to take. The action to take is like something that's not serving you, release, because they're like, pull your head off of the telescope. And again, it's someone who's not looking at a telescope into the great big stars. It's someone who's looking into a telescope. I'm actually seeing the Statue of Liberty. I'm seeing someone looking through a telescope at the Statue of Liberty. And, you know, Spirit is saying, like, I really want to show you more than what you think is the whole of what you can see. And that means that your action, your willingness has to be in pulling out of that spot where you kind of know everything, and starting over from a spot where you're having a pivot in your life in a whole new direction. And there may be, for some of you, this is already happening. Some of you, this started in February. Because the goal of this month is to let go of everything that you thought was going to make you happy. And all the ways that you were sneaking, like although like sometimes we find ways to sort of like lie to ourselves or not see the truth because we don't want to see the whole picture. And so the goal of this month of March for you, Aquarius, is to recognize what's not happy and what's not giving you happiness. And that recognition is an honesty with the self that's like no hold barred, and also having you start the journey from a space, from that inner child space. Because from that healed inner child space that's approaching the world with a cup of wonder and love, and Spirit says you will be very well received. This is the visualizing and the dreaming your new way of being into the world. And so Spirit says the goal of this month is to be a child again in many senses, and just understand that, stuff that you thought was going to make you happy in life, stuff that you thought was, the ultimate, being honest with yourself and knowing that it's time to start new in a lot of ways. And so let's pull from the Oracle deck and just get one little last bit of advice for Spirit for Aquarius on the month of March. What do we have? Well, it feels like we have I'm seeing a beautiful new beginning. I'm seeing a new beginning that is like, again, it's like a rebirth. It's a very positive rebirth, because there was a lot that wasn't serving. Yeah. And then I just pull two more from this as clarifiers. It's like you had a whole life built up in a certain way, and it was like it was like a house built on sand, like easily washed away, and constantly trying to keep that house up in that certain way. And Spirit would say, just let it wash away. I've got a whole new, that was fantasy, and you had to have soul growth. But, so you have this card here. This is the pink rose. And it says, the pursuit of perfection then is the pursuit of sweetness and light. But what I'm getting from this card in relation to these other cards, because you have fantasy and you have the soul. And what I'm seeing here is advice from Spirit for the month of March regarding all of this, because this is a lot. And it feels smooth to me. It doesn't feel like a jagged sort of road. It does feel very smooth. The advice from Spirit is, listen, what wasn't real was never real. And so it's not like you're losing anything that was real. And what is real is always real, and you're never going to lose what's meant for you. And this has been a period of time of growth for your soul, and awareness of your soul, and awareness of yourself as so much more than the picture of your life that you had previously thought was. There was this level of pursuit of perfection. And the Spirit is like, there's nothing wrong with wanting, to agitate perfection into being. There's nothing wrong with that. But in pursuit of perfection, there's a sense in which you may have been upholding a fantasy about how it was good to be in the life that a life that wasn't good, that the reality of it was thwarting your soul growth, and it was like a boat that you have to keep on bailing out. Spirit, this month of March, Spirit saying, look at everything real clear and understand that whatever was an illusion, whatever you weren't being totally honest with you about yourself, all that's clarity that's coming through. It's calling for change. It's calling for an open heart. And in that opening of your heart, as you let your heart chakra open, because again, this is going to be like an activity where you have to be on top of it, because there's so much like letting go of stuff that wasn't quite, that was repressed, that was problematic, that was really, this was like, it's basically Spirit being like your whole apparatus of self-protection. That needs to be put down in order for me to give you a brand new boat and for you to see the whole of the horizon, and for you to have the kind of life that you are, where you are the center of your gravity and you are bathed in sunshine. And that's sort of where it is with March, you know, shedding a lot of what doesn't work and seeing it clearly, and then dreaming your life into dreaming and visualizing the life that you want to have, knowing what doesn't work, dreaming about what will, and what really visualizing like a new way of being where you are all of the beautiful things that you are, but you also feel really safe and comfortable in close, intimate relationships that are actually safe, and that you don't have to protect yourself so much from. Because as you grow, you're gonna just attract a whole different breed, you know, a soul tribe that is in alignment with your soul. And you know, some of this is an awakening. For some of you, this is a real awakening. I don't think so. I think for most of you, what it feels like is that this started in February. A lot of this stuff became clear to you, and now you're kind of in a place of, I don't know, because a lot crumbled. A lot, like, you know, for many of you, there was a tower moment, and a lot of stuff became really clear. And so March is a period of dealing with all of that. So yeah, so that's March, and I hope that resonated. It's not a terrible, like, you know, that seemed like kind of a harsh sort of thing, but, you know, dreaming your life into being in a whole new way and visualizing it and manifesting a whole new beautiful life, this is going to be good. The old way, it's not like you were losing, you know, the perfect. You're seeing the flaws for what they are. So you're going to be able to make space for beautiful things to come in and to dream those things up. So that is March for you, Aquarius, and I hope that some of it or all of it resonated. And I'll see you next month.